Hi everybody, welcome back to a spring cupping video that we're doing today. Today I have with me Joanne, my longest serving colleague at Nordic Approach. So you got the old timers today. So we're going to discuss what's wrong with the kids today and why they should get off our lawns. No, the topic for today's video is Colombia, which is a huge topic, but today we're going to talk about blends versus microlots. So Joe, you're our main buyer for Colombia. You've been there lots in the last 5 to 10 years, I would say. What are we talking about here? What's a blend when it comes to Colombia?
So today we're talking about coffees from HUILA in particular. Most coffees in Colombia are blends, especially at a commercial level. A lot of the producers are very, very small and they're having a couple of hectares. And it's not so easy to put all of their volume into one lot and still maintain the integrity of the quality of the coffee. But in the same way, we know that a lot of customers require larger volumes. So we've also found it very interesting to group some of these small producers in different ways. Sometimes these coffees are cupping even higher than the sort of very small, what we consider micro lots.
Sure.
It's not really directly related to quality.
Even if we're talking about a 5 or 10 bag lot, I mean, the actual micro lot or nano lot may be 1 bag. So they've taken kind of 5 lots they've dried over the course of these 2 weeks and put them together into a 5 bag lot, right?
Absolutely. And you have to think about that a farmer is picking cherry. So even if a farmer is picking a couple 100 of kgs of cherry with their family a day, that weight is still going to lose like 70 to 80% of its weight going from cherry to parchment.
What our job is, or what our challenge is, along with exporters in Colombia that we're working with, is to figure out what makes sense as a blend, right? What's the most important sort of criteria for you?
So I think it's important that coffees work together in terms of cup profile, for sure. Our priority is of course quality. In terms of priority for us is cup, but also relationships and producers that we've been working with for many years. And we know sometimes the whole lot can be lifted by the combination of the different qualities of the coffees in the blend.
Sure. And I think the other thing that I'm always thinking about is freshness. So we're trying to blend coffees together that are harvested, processed at the same time. Should we cup some coffee? Should we taste some?
Yeah.
I've got them in mugs. So we have 4 coffees we're going to taste today. 2 are blend concepts. When we're talking about blends in this video, we'll talk about these, the first 2, and then the second 2 will be single farmers or micro lots.
So the first blend we have is the El Divinito. This is one of the older concepts we have for Colombia. Thanks for that, Alec.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fixed it in post.
Yeah, that's great. So this is a program that Morton started with Progresso many years ago, based around a group of producers that they identified through cupping the coffees from those producers, seeing that those producers were mostly, at that time, producing older varieties of coffee. So they prioritized these producers for the varieties that they were growing, but also for the quality that they found in the cup and for the control that the producers had over drying and the humidity of the coffees that they were presenting. It was at the time a group of about 28 to 40 producers. And of course, over the years, that group has changed. Some people have even left producing coffee, but we still have the criteria for these producers to meet.
But so how big are we talking about on the blend here?
That's a 21 bag lot. So El Divinito is a play on the El Divino Nino. So the original name of the bigger volume blend, more we're talking about 50 to 100 bags, was El Divino Nino. And then we realized that there was still capacity to create this kind of blend when the harvest was also lower for some of these producers, but it was never going to be at the same level of volume. So we created the secondary blend along with the same concept, and that's where the El Divinito blend comes from.
So when we're talking about blends, we're not necessarily talking about something that's 5 containers, right?
No.
We're talking, this is 20 bags. It's not a huge scale thing, but it also allows you to buy from a similar group of producers every year and have enough volume so you can run it for more than a week in your roastery.
Yeah, so in this case in particular, there's 7 different producers who've contributed to this blend, all of which are producers we are buying from regularly within this concept, and also as micro lots when they are delivering that level of quality and enough volume to make a micro lot. And like you said, it allows us to continue to buy and hold the coffee in our offer list with a defined concept and name, and to be able to communicate it in a way that about it in a way that people can understand what it is.
And everybody has customers who want something new. It's always nice to have new names, but at the same time, there's a limit. So it's like, can I have something? When are you going to have that coffee back? Oh, I'm never going to have that coffee back again, because it's just changed all the time. It's nice to have some pillars in your menu to say, this is something we're working with. You know, El Divinito is back, you know, from last year. But
and
I mean,
you're able to rely on a relatively stable cup profile for this coffee as well. So you're going to see like a Colombian level of fruit. So there's going to be fruit and some acidity there at a medium kind of level, but it's still going to be like a solid, good, balanced coffee that is versatile for both espresso or for a filter option. So I think that's also what's important, is that the cup profile is kind of at a consistent level.
Yeah, and that's also because the farmers are in a pretty small area. So I want to just compare this one a little bit to the second coffee before we talk about the cupping notes. The second coffee is called Guadalupe Collective, also from HUILA, but from a different municipality. Is that right?
Yeah, so the Guadalupe is one municipality, Guadalupe, and basically Cocentral have a number of purchasing points around 7 different municipalities. So Guadalupe is a blend of producers just in this region. So the concept here is more like a regional representation of coffee.
Or like a micro or like a community.
We should say municipality rather than region. Because the region is HUILA, and all the coffees are from HUILA actually. So
taste these two for me. I've been drinking them while you've been talking, which is nice. What do you think in terms of flavor profile? I mean, what do they taste like for you?
So for me, the El Divinito, it's very balanced and very sweet with a lot of clarity. For me, it has a little more acidity coming through, but still at a level that's very manageable. And that's why for me, it's very versatile as well, because it can express, that acidity can be expressed very well in a filter coffee. But still low to medium acidity is very manageable in the palate.
Yeah.
Whereas the Guadalupe, it's sweet with a kind of rounder feel and less acidity. So it could also be a very sweet kind of simple filter, and there's absolutely no negative connotations in that. For a lot of people, that's what they're looking for. But as an espresso, I think it could be a very good option.
It's got a little bit more, the Guadalupe, the second coffee, has a little bit more weight for me. So I think both of them are like crisp and clean and like have acidity. They're sort of like clear fruits, but the Guadalupe is a little heavier for me. So maybe like a little bit more milk chocolate that would maybe work nicely in espresso. But I think the thing that to just talk about blends in general, and the Guadalupe is 28 bags. So we're also not talking a huge blend. They can have a lot of character, and they can have a lot of fruit, and they can be cupping on any given table better than micro lots, or different than micro lots. And so
I think for me, definitely what has stood out in all of the blends that we work to create is the clarity in the cup, and that there's always some, like one, it may not be that they're always so layered. Sometimes they are, like the El Divinito. To be honest, I find this a very layered coffee.
Yeah.
But all of the blends have like a distinctive characteristic running through them, whether it's sweetness, great body, acidity. There's going to be one thing there that really runs through the coffee. That, along with the clarity of a cup, for me, makes them different to what you usually find. But I also need to mention that the great thing about these as blends for us is that we cut through the individual lots that make up these blends. So we're aware of how stable each individual coffee is in terms of the way that they've been dried, how they're reading on humidity and water activity. And that's also something that I think is really important, because there are a lot of great coffees. They can even cup great and be great, but it doesn't mean that they'll be able to sustain that greatness if they haven't been well processed and dried. And so it's something that's very important because we are very secure, even in the larger volume blends that we buy and that we create, that we're cupping through the individual components to make sure that the coffees are stable.
This one is for the kids. You might not know this, but 10 years ago, when you bought Colombians, they would age really fast because drying is a challenge. So you would find lots of good coffees, but a lot of them would age quickly. You'd have stuff arriving that would already taste woody. You may not know that as much now because it's much less of the case. I would say not just from Nordic, but from across the industry. We've gotten better on reading moisture and water activity and being more strict on that. So, I mean, the worst thing in the world is cupping a 90-point coffee in Colombia and having it arrive tasting like, 4 years old, just wood chips. So it's an important, I don't want to just gloss over it because it's such an important thing that we spend a lot of time thinking about. So now Colombian coffees are, they can hold up for if they were dried well, they can hold up for a really long time. So that's one of also the key things about us building our own blends, that we know that everything going in there, it has been dried properly. Super important.
Yeah, can't agree more.
Yeah, sweet. Nice. That's what I like to hear, Joanne. I want to hear your agreement. I need validation so bad. Should we go on to single farmers?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are two different lots here. One is called Los Alpes by a producer called Edison Noriega. And this is a coffee from HUILA, and the municipality is Turkey. I just have to mention Turkey a little specifically because this has been a municipality very close to our hearts. We do not anymore, but in previous years we ran a competition there with some producers, and we have just really found the coffees from this really small area are quite unique and just have great and distinctive cup profiles. So it's always great to work there, and we love having coffees come back in stock. And then the second micro lot is called El Progresso. Thanks for that, Alec. By Maria Lourdes, a producer we've also been working with for a couple of years now. That's in Garzón, also HUILA, but the municipality is Garzón. I've been tasting a little bit before we started, and as we've been sitting here. I don't know, for me, like I get a little excited now, so I'm just going to jump into the one that I'm very fond of. Yeah, but the Los Alpes, for me, the coffee from Turkey, it's just got this beautiful, like custard-like mouthfeel that just kind of like coats and engulfs your palate, and is so beautiful and so balanced. And that's really what stands out for me in this coffee a lot.
I love that you said custard, because that's a weird cupping note in a lot of ways, but it's like velvety. And the texture of the coffee, it's got tons of sweetness and really nice acidity. It's actually the texture of the coffee for me that sets it apart from lots of other things. It's just like, it's almost like when you taste a really nice wine or something and you don't really know that much about wine, but you're like, oh, this tastes fancy. This coffee tastes fancy. It's just got and that for me is like an extra level of complexity and texture.
Yeah. And I think like the thing I love about this coffee is, especially these days, we're cupping so many different kinds of coffees and processes and crazy wild fruit and very like flavors that are depictive of the process that the coffee has been through, which I also can enjoy thoroughly. But for me, this is the kind of coffee that I want to pick up and drink all day. And like you say, it tastes fancy. You just know that this coffee is good at its core.
And I think it's also hard to find. I mean, I really think that kind of subtlety and that like completeness is hard to find. And maybe not everybody, like maybe it's not a crazy expensive coffee or anything like that. It's something that for some people, like maybe you and me, there's nothing better than this. So tasty. And of course, we're talking about the concepts here. So when you watch this video, this coffee may be long gone or maybe in your local roaster, but this is sometimes, I mean, when you're cupping all these coffees, that's one of the things that causes you to keep it as a separate micro lot when it's really tasting just like phenomenal, right?
Yeah. So for me, like the micro lots and how we go about like deciding on what we should keep separate is really when a coffee has this kind of characteristic that you can't help but kind of get excited about. Or it's like you have this little crush, so all the excitement about this coffee just comes out and you can't even help it, even if you don't want to. And that's when I kind of know, okay, this coffee has to be kept separate, even though maybe not everybody will love it the same way I do.
So basically, roasters, when you buy this coffee, please send Joanne a bag. That's the...
I will not complain if that's what I receive.
How about coffee number 4, El Progresso from Maria Lourdes?
This
is from Garzón.
This is from Garzón, you're right. And we are, Maria, we have been working with a couple of different microlots of hers over the last couple of years. And she's also contributing sometimes to the blends. The distinctive thing for me here, again, is like just some really dark purple fruit, which I think come out very nicely. And a lot of sort of like more heavy sweetness and a little bit of like bitters that I think give a nice complexity or add like a layer of depth to what else is in the cup. And again, it's just an example of a coffee there where there is layers in a way that you really want to be able to say, okay, people should taste this coffee as something as it is, as something separate, as something unique.
I think it's very distinctive in flavor profile. If you have these 4 coffees on the table, the one that stands out most, which is one of the easiest things to do as a cupper, and oftentimes you sort of gravitate towards the one that is not like the others. This one for me is not like the others. Just it's not wildly different. It's not that all of them are washed coffees. There's no processing differences that I'm tasting here. But this one is just like I like the idea. It's like kind of like Angostura bitters, where you just have like you've got some punchiness that's more than just acidity. You've all got like some different fruit and maybe like orange peel or orange rind or that kind of thing. So it's got a different type of intensity and weight than the other coffees for me. And so it's just like, it's very distinctive. As you know, Colombia has a million flavor profiles, even from like pretty much one part of Huila, right? We're not even talking from north to south in Huila, pretty much one small part of Huila. We have 4 pretty different flavor profiles.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. Like Huila is quite a long region, and Costa Central and where we work with them is only in central Huila. So it's really even one part of a region, and then even smaller municipalities within that region that these coffees are coming from. And yet you still get such different kind of profiles and characteristics. But also largely because there are a lot of mountain ranges or mountains, and producers are in different parts of the mountain, and creates these microclimates. Producers' harvests run at all different times and often alternating times. And so you can also always have coffee from Huila.
You know, we do spend, especially you, we spend a lot of work making these things, but for technical reasons. But the coolest thing when you get to just taste them and see the fruits of the labor is awesome.
Absolutely. And I have to say, like this El Divinito, this has been one of my favorite Colombian coffees from the last harvesting and buying period. So I think that's a good example of how good a coffee can be, whether it's a blend or a microlot.
So if you're looking for these coffees on the offer list, the way you find them is the ones that are blends will just have the blend name followed by a number, and the ones that are single farmers will always have the name of the farmer after the name of the farm. So in this case, you can tell that this is a single farm, the microlot, because it's called Los Alpes, which is the name of the farm, by Edinson Noriega. Whereas El Divinito is just El Divinito. Well, Joe, thanks for taking the time to talk to me and taste some coffees. So we should do this more in person maybe one day.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you, Alec.
And for the rest of you who are watching on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, MySpace, TikTok, thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.